So, do you even understand how a conversation works? You are still pretending like I started this conversation on YouTube when it was someone else. Now, the problem is this pedophilia. They're talking about, like on SVU. That's why I keep referring to the show, which I watched for 5 years, off and on. Maybe partially, maybe fully, sometimes it depends on the episode, right? But again, I channel surf too, right? And it changed from Tuesday to, I think it started out on Monday usually. I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then Thursday right now. Usually that's how the shows on NBC start out too, right? If they're a long-running show. Law and Order, the original series, and SVU are the two longest series they have on NBC, right? FYI. Now that's the company's corporate image. Now, they're the ones, though, producing that particular show, and really it's one of the most successful shows on the network, right? Why? It's trying to help everybody deal with pedophilia. Now, you can't pretend they're not bringing up the topic, and I can't respond to them, idiot. Or you're not my friend. I don't even pretend you're my friend when you do that. You're not listening. Or you are and you favor them and you don't want people talking about it because you're a pedophile, I guess. Do you like it when people call you a pedophile? Because you're acting weird about it yourself? No. The only reason they can use my ex-wife against me is she had a 4-year-old daughter. But it's not like I didn't meet her till about 6 months into the relationship, right? And you're trying to make it an odd encounter and not a normal one. Not me, right? You weren't there. 26 years ago and counting. Because it was in 94, right? This August it'll be 26 years. And counting. Where you're not a witness to anything, right? Now, another problem I have is like changing the topic. My Comcast, when they set up the service, were supposed to set me up with the phone, but they never did, right? Well, they owed me the amount of the phone service, right? Because my phone ain't been working, don't you think? Comcast, Xfinity. That's another problem. I started that back in January, right? Well, they never set up the phone correctly, and now, because of coronavirus, they won't come in the house. I know. Even they only do outside work now. You can't do that because you didn't set up my phone. And you can't deny me service, right? Now, the third thing has to do with overweight people and high blood pressure. Here's the question, doctor. Do small people, because of their small stature, have a lower blood pressure? And when they start getting big, does it go up? Well, if you're pushing blood through your body and you get bigger and your blood pressure goes up, doesn't that sound natural? You're trying to keep the blood pressure down like they're small still. Now, don't tell me you know everything about it. You're just learning like any child who doesn't know what they're doing in the kindergarten room. Sometimes vanity is man's biggest sin. They think they know what they're doing when they don't. And you're not using your head sometimes. Maybe a person with higher blood pressure because they gain weight, it's supposed to have a little bit higher blood pressure. Right. I mean, and a person who's smaller has lower blood pressure because they're smaller in weight. It sounds like cause and effect to me, and you're over medicating people. That could be a problem if there's not a real problem, and you're making people think it's the problem with your little lab coats and everything, playing God to them. When you're just learning about it yourself. Use your head. Maybe you're making it an issue because people die from it, but you don't know what they're really dying from. Either. It just appears like it was high blood pressure to you because they got bigger and got fatter and got high blood pressure as a result, which might be natural. Now, we don't know why people die either. You can't explain it. Sometimes it's just somebody's time, as they say. If it's their time, it was just their time sometimes. You're over investigating it, maybe. Right. So, I also bought me a drum kit and a bass guitar, right? I can show you the bass guitar in a bit, but I'll do that later. Maybe more tomorrow. And I have been tested as of Friday for COVID, right? They won't let me know till Monday or Friday. Next week. That's how worried about it I am, too. Right? Now, here's another problem, though. As to why people are dying and why people suddenly have it, right? It's been out since 1960 and started from animal to human transfer, which once it's in a human, they can transfer human to human. Silly. It's been out for 60 years, fool. But now, because a strain came out of China, you're focusing on it's popping up all over the place. Especially in America. Where you're not treating it similar to the flu, which is what it's like. And the symptoms are similar to the flu, but it lasts a little longer. Well, any child in the playground around other children can get a cold, a flu, or coronavirus. But what usually causes a virus is a strain of that virus. So, when you find out, you go in, you get tested and suddenly you have it, you can die of a heart attack if it's killing people, or cardiac arrest quicker than you can die of coronavirus, and you can't tell what you're really dying from. Right? But what really kills them is a heart attack. It's like when Jesus was up on the cross, even though he was pierced through to the heart with a spear, the spear wound ain't what killed him. It was what's called congestive heart failure. What happens there is because of how he was on the cross, he couldn't breathe. Right. Well, the more he was on the cross, the more he would have to push up to breathe, right? Plus, with the beating, which the other two people weren't beaten, right? But he was also beaten with 39 stripes save one, right? That's how they punished you back then, right? Now that alone wouldn't kill you either. But they also hit him with rods and reeds, and who knows, they didn't rape him either. We don't know. But whatever's going on during that scene, it lasted till noon, and he was on the cross from noon to 6, and they got him into the tomb before sundown. Though it's still April, May, I mean March or April when it happened, we're not sure. Right? But it's around the time or the Feast of Pentecost, right? Now, we're also not sure if it happened in 26 AD or 33 AD because they changed the calendar all around, right? One tried to mark it from his birth, by the way, and make that 0 AD. One calendar did, right? One was based on Caesar, right? At the time. That's where he was born around 4 or 7 BCE, right? Now, all we know, though, is Herod died around 4 BC, right? Now, if Jesus was born 2 years before, that would be when? 6 BC. 6 BC, right? Right? Then Joseph went into Egypt, and then shortly after that, Herod died. Do the math. It's simple. And then he moved to Nazareth, and he was raised in Nazareth. That don't mean, okay, when in Bethlehem, they didn't go to the temple either. Now, Luke said they did all that the prophets said of them to do as well. That includes what Matthew said. Silly. And yes, they're telling you with gaps in the story. What played in their mind the most about Jesus' birth, right? Matthew was kind of being more like a doctor or a lawyer, talking about how Jesus was circumcised and John the Baptist and all that, right? And telling how Elizabeth conceived first and then Mary, right? When she found out Elizabeth was pregnant, right? Well, that's why Joseph was buying her to put her away privately. But what that means is a private stoning, not a public one. By the way. That's how they dealt with all that now. Right. That would be the only real difference, though. Now, they wonder who the woman was who was brought with Jesus sometimes, whether it was a prostitute, somebody else's wife, or his wife. Well, here's the problem with Judaism. Another man cannot decide the fate of a prostitute or someone else's wife, only his wife. Who was minded to put Mary away privately, but Joseph himself, her husband, right? She was betrothed to him, not another man, right? So if the woman that was brought to him that committed adultery, the adultery would have to be against who there? Jesus himself. Right? And that means she was his legal wife. Right. They were legally married in Jewish ceremony, and the wedding at Cana could have had to do with that. Right? Now, all we know, though, is the bridegroom is never identified, though Jesus was at the feast, though the governor went to the bridegroom and said, this is the best wine he ever tastes. But in chapter 3, John the Baptist says who the bridegroom is. Jesus. He that has the bride is the bridegroom, he said. Well, I wonder what that means, since he baptized him in water, too. Okay. And John talks about Jesus having mastoids in Revelations. I keep bringing that up. That would technically be man boobs. But the difference is, the man boobs John is talking about, he added an eye with it. Well, what's the difference, you might say? Well, look into the Septuagint and you'll find out. The Septuagint is based on the Hebrew scriptures, and the word for chest is 2 words in the Greek. Stissos, which is used in Daniel too, right? Where it talks about the idol with the chest, right? A male's chest, by the way. But another word is mastos, which applies to only a female's chest. Well, guess what? The word John used is mastos, right? Well, you might say, what does that matter? Well, John, when talking about Jesus leaning on his bosom, at first used thethos, right? When he was leaning on his chest. But Luke said a woman in the crowd said to Jesus, "Blessed are the wombs that bore you and the paps you had sucked." Right? Well, he used mastoi, a different spelling of the word. And Jesus said the days will come when they said, "Blessed are the wombs that never bore, the paps that never sucked." Again, the word here is mastoi. Now, a witness sees something everybody else can't see or won't see to witness what they're doing wrong. It's not to condemn you, but to inform you, but you have to accept you're not wanting to see it too, right? Or you're sinning against it after a while. And you're not giving a damn, right? Well, there are also variant spellings of the word Chad and Shadim in the Hebrew, right? One is SHDY. One is SHDDY with L in front of it, even. One is with an, I think the consonant is a KH sound, right? Ack, right? But no oath, right? They don't feminize it with the plural feminine. They instead pluralize it with the masculine, right? But the weird thing about the word for chest is chiza. Well, it ends in a H, as does other feminine words, and that's the word for a male's chest, right? It's cheza. CHEZH, right? AH. Well, that means something in the Hebrew. That means the male's chest is considered feminine, and the female's breasts are considered masculine. Ain't that strange, I know. But nobody's caring about it either. Well, what about all that? Now, I ain't telling you because I'm not having a reason. Right? I had a dream when I was 12, going on 13, where I see this throne. There's a light, and I'm standing in front of it as if in a cloud. Now, I'm trying to figure out if other males had this same dream too, right? And I also figured out maybe females see a footstool in a garden or something, right? Maybe also with no one on top of it, right? And again, I don't know. But that's because the Bible says heaven is my throne and the earth is my footstool, right? And you're not to worship a graven image, right? But the women might see a footstool with nothing on it but in a garden or tree growth. But nobody's on it, right? And the men might see a throne, but there's only a light on it. Right. Well, what that means is the light is God. Jesus said, John said of Jesus, he stands in the light which no man can see. Right? Well, that's implicating something there. Mm-hmm. Right, right. About light. About light. But, what does it mean? What does it mean? You don't know. You don't know. Some people might think, oh, I'm to sit on the throne and be God over the light. That might be wrong. Some people might think the light is God and I'm not supposed to sit on the throne because it's God, not me. That's what I think of that story. But the problem is, whichever you think's going on, you're having to figure out what the dream means, and you have to look into religion to do that. Mm-hmm. And some of you don't want to consider all religions right, which I do. Some of you think the Christians are right. No. Some of you think the Muslims are right. No. Some of you think the Jews are right. No. Right. They're hiding certain facts from you. Everybody is. Everybody is. Even doctors don't tell you about hermaphrodites, so they medically operate on them all the time, right? Well, that means there's a third gender that could be sexually introduced to the gene pool. Right? If we're normally male and female doctors, the only way a hermaphroditic gene can be introduced into the gene pool is if there was a strain of hermaphrodites around, but fewer than the male and female. Mm-hmm. But they too had to have sex with the male and female for it to be in the gene pool. That's what I mean. Now, some people might not think you're worthy to know this, right? That's the choice too. That's the choice too. Something wants you to feel unworthy to tell the truth, right? Something don't. That's the whole problem. But y'all got to figure out what you want to do.